Who do you consider to be a man of faith? The Muslim faithful? Definitely. Pope Francis? Obviously. The scientist? How is that even possible? Well, how is that not possible? The seeming contradiction between science and faith is in fact centuries old. I personally refer to it as the first and never-ending World War. One of the first victims of this war, the father of modern science himself, Galileo Galilei. This intelligent, incredibly smart, and brave, I must say, scientist proved that the Earth revolved around the sun. Now, 400 years ago, this was heresy. It not only challenged the wildly held belief of geocentrism, the Earth being the center of the universe, it challenged the very existence of a God, and that was unacceptable. His punishment, a lifetime of confinement to a house, what you would call imprisonment nowadays. Well, he isn't the only victim of this war. Over the centuries, scientists have constantly criticized the religious for being delusional, believing in the totally impossible. The religious, on the other hand, are constantly criticizing scientists for believing in the shallowness of this world. Well, should this be? Does faith really contradict science? Is faith illogical? To answer this question, let's consider the word logic itself. Now, inductive logic tries to go from the one to the every. It tries to go from the evidences that suggest an expanding universe to the Big Bang theory. It tries to go from independently carried out research to concluding that 1 of every 4 persons will eventually have a mental health issue. But induction is actually imperfect. I'll give you an example. Now, in my very many years of research, I have come to discover that the big trend building clock rang at 11:30 a.m. this morning. Can you imagine that? Further studies show that this same clock rang at 11:45 a.m. Now, my most recent studies show that the trend building clock rang at exactly 12 noon. Amazing. Now, from my almighty formula, I can induce that at every given time x, 15 minutes after x, the trend building clock must have rung. I should get an applause. I've made an amazing discovery. Now, while this is very likely and probably cannot be disproved, you would agree with me that I cannot prove with absolute certainty that for every given time x, this will in fact be the case. I'll give another example, the fire alarm problem, which I can attest to the fact that many of us have experienced here in the school. I mean, we all know that a fire triggers a fire alarm. True?
Smoke.
Well, that doesn't contradict this statement. This statement is true. Then all of a sudden, we are, the fire alarm is ringing, the fire alarm is ringing. So there is a fire. Or maybe not. This is the imperfection of induction. Now, I'm here to tell you that theories, predictions, and faith are in fact products of induction. Because it takes induction to go from the one to the every. It takes induction to go from a study to absolutely say that 1 of every 10 stage 4 pancreatic cancer patients would survive. Only 1. Now, it may be more difficult to tell this to 10 actual cancer patients. Inductive logic is imperfect because you cannot prove with absolute certainty that for every conclusion derived via induction, that there are not many infinite number of possible conclusions that can be derived from same given evidences. So induction is perfect. In statistics, this uncertainty is accounted for by the remaining 5%, or the probability value, you may call it. Faith is therefore logical. It is therefore logical to believe in the infinitiveness of all possibilities. Believing could make all the difference. The Wright brothers, they believed in the idea of a flying man at a time when it was considered to be a total impossibility. Alan Turing, the famous and incredibly smart British mathematician, he believed in the idea of a thinking machine at a time when it was considered to be a total impossibility. Donald Trump, my personal favorite, how could this man believe that he would win the elections? I mean, he was so unpopular, no one really spoke anything great about him. Now, I don't know the reason for his conviction, just as I don't quite know the reason for your conviction in the existence or non-existence of a God, in the morality of the pro-choice. I don't know the reason for your conviction, but you believe. So, does faith really contradict science? I say that science, theoretical science, is in fact an act of faith. Faith is not delusional, because delusion ignores and contradicts the facts. Faith acknowledges the facts, works with them, and yet believes. Faith is logical. Having faith is logical, but proving faith is illogical. Because once again, you cannot prove that for every conclusion that is drawn via inductive reasoning, that there are not other possible explanations to the given evidences. And then, I'll leave you with a quote from one of the smartest scientists that ever lived, Albert Einstein. Faith without science is blind, but science without faith is lame. So who do you consider to be a man of faith? I am. I believe in myself. I believe in you, I believe that everyone who's seated here has got one belief that they hold so dear. It may be in the legalization of weaponry. It may be in the existence or non-existence of a God, or the possibilities of an entirely robotic world. You have a belief, you have a conviction. And from this talk today, I have shown that it is actually illogical for me to try to prove your belief, because that would be begging the question, that would be begging induction with induction. I am a man of faith. Thank you.